If you feel like you're constantly hustling for your next client, underpricing your services just to get booked, you're not alone. I know what it's like to be stuck in survival mode, wondering where my next client is coming from and just worrying about money all the time. The thing is, the way most web designers are taught to get clients is what's keeping them stuck. In this video, I'll show you how to break free by building recurring revenue. What you're about to watch is a talk that I gave at the 2025 Simply Profitable Designer Summit, all about creating consistent, predictable income in your design business. I wanted to share it here because so many web designers struggle with this. In this talk, I'll walk you through the mindset shifts and strategies that helped me start building consistent, recurring revenue as a freelance web designer. If we haven't met yet, hi, I'm Danbee. I'm a web design mentor based in Switzerland. I help web designers build profitable and inclusive businesses without overworking. If you want help getting clients more consistently, I have a free training you can get started with at danbeeshin.com/training. All right, now let's dive into this presentation. I want to first talk about what living in survival mode looks like and how it hurts us. Surviving often feels like being stuck on a treadmill that you can't turn off. It's exhausting, it's relentless, and it gives you no room to think beyond not falling off. And of course, it can look different for everyone, but here's some common signs as a designer. You feel like you're constantly hustling to land your next client project. You struggle to say no to red flag clients because something is better than nothing. You're too busy to take care of yourself physically, mentally, or emotionally because there's always something a client or a potential client needs that's more urgent. You underprice your services because it feels like the only way to get clients, even if they're far from your ideal clients. You're trying to do everything other people say they're doing, from sending cold emails and posting on Instagram regularly to making templates to sell for, quote, passive income, even if it doesn't feel quite right and you actually have no idea what you're doing. Does any of this sound familiar? Because I know it did for me. If you do recognize some of these patterns in your business, don't ignore them. They're likely to be more than just passing problems. They're signs that something's got to change. The harsh truth is living like this makes you bad at running your business. Emotionally, it keeps you in a constant state of stress and fear, making it hard to focus and make strategic decisions for your business. Financially, it means you're always chasing immediate income instead of building long-term stability. And of course, it spills into other areas of your life. On a deeper personal level, living in survival mode leaves no room for creativity, for personal growth, or big picture planning. When you're stuck in survival mode, you're working all the time in a way that drains you and robs you of the opportunity to ask yourself, what do I truly want? I lived in survival mode for most of my life, even when I didn't realize it. I want to share a little bit of my story with you because hearing about other people's experiences can help you reflect on your own life and better understand how you got to where you are today. I grew up watching my parents make huge sacrifices. My family and I are from South Korea. My dad worked in garment manufacturing, and when I was 7 years old, my family moved to Sri Lanka because that is where his job took him. At the time, very few people in South Korea even knew where Sri Lanka was, but my parents packed up their lives, left their entire support system behind, and moved to a place where they knew no one because they had to for my dad's work. Living abroad for the first time as people in their late 30s, my parents focused on the basics: earning enough to pay the bills, cutting costs wherever possible, and giving me and my younger sister the best education that they could afford. And that education came in the form of an international school, a bubble where everything was in English, and people in leadership positions were almost always white. My parents taught me to always be grateful for that opportunity to go to this school. I learned to keep my head down, listen to my teachers, get perfect grades, participate in all the extracurricular activities, and be a positive representation of Koreans outside Korea. These were my duties and also my path to success. If that sounds like a lot for a 7-year-old or even a 17-year-old to take on, it was. That mindset stayed with me even as I grew into adulthood. I got a degree in mechanical engineering from a global top 10 university, got the kinds of jobs my parents could brag about, working for prestigious multinational companies run by old white dudes, reporting to European bosses, and I felt proud of these achievements. But over time, I also realized that I had created a presentable, palatable version of myself to fit into these environments. I spoke up so people could hear my American accent and not dismiss me as another quiet Asian woman. I overachieved my performance targets, worked long hours, and laughed off microaggressions because I didn't want to jeopardize my career. I stayed silent when white executives made dehumanizing comments about local Southeast Asian employees. I watched as my white male peers were given mentorship, high profile projects, and clear pathways for career progression, while I was pulled aside and told I was being, quote, difficult to manage for asking for a fraction of that kind of support. I had bent myself in every which way possible to prove that I deserved to be there, that I was worthy of these opportunities that someone like me wouldn't normally get. But no matter how hard I worked, no matter how grateful I was, I still felt out of place and very alone. Despite all that, I was, in some ways, doing pretty well. In my mid 20s, I had more financial security than my parents did when I was growing up. But I was still stuck in survival mode because that was the only way that I could maintain the status quo. And I felt like I had to maintain the status quo because walking away wasn't an option. I mean, how ungrateful would I have to be to throw away this financial security that I had built, that my parents had worked so hard to make possible all those years ago when we moved to Sri Lanka? And this mindset kept me from exploring what I truly wanted. I never had the space to ask myself questions like, did I really want to run large multinational companies from a glass corner office in the sky, or was that just someone else's idea of success? What kind of work puts me in flow? Where in the world would I choose to live if I didn't have an employer to decide for me? What did I actually want to spend most of my time doing? What would make me happy? It took a major family tragedy to shake me out of this way of thinking. It helped me realize that I couldn't keep living like this, and that is when I made the leap to start my own business. But of course, starting my own business didn't magically solve everything. Whether I was in the corporate world or in the online business industry, I was still in the same world run by capitalist, patriarchal, white supremacist systems. As a freelance web designer based then in Asia, I attended group coaching calls and live events in the middle of the night just to participate in real time and access the same resources as everyone else. I stayed quiet when a coach gave a backhanded compliment to another business owner about how they were showing up despite their thick accent when speaking English. I say a backhanded compliment, it wasn't even that. I let people assume I was American, knowing that it worked in my favor, and also worried that correcting them in front of other people would make them feel uncomfortable. I swallowed my pride when clients treated me with disrespect because I felt like I couldn't afford to lose the work. I used, quote, magic email templates from pro marketers, even though they were overly aggressive and nothing like how I would actually talk to my clients. I kept investing in courses and programs that weren't built for people like me, believing that if I just followed their formula, I would finally break through and have a successful business. In these and so many other ways, I quickly found myself slipping back into the same cycles of overworking, burning out, and chasing someone else's definition of success, which is exactly what I had left the corporate world to stop doing. During this period, I was trying to operate my business according to the marketing funnel because that is what I'd learned from all the online celebrity business educators. You're probably familiar with this upside down triangle. At the top, you generate leads through things like lead magnets, cold emails, and social media. In the middle, you nurture those leads with email newsletters, more social media content, and so on. And at the bottom is often the discovery call or the sales call, where you convert those leads into paying clients. This seemed pretty logical, but I quickly learned that it doesn't actually work for most designers who offer done for you services for three main reasons. One, the funnel only moves in one direction. Once someone enters the funnel, they either drop off along the way or they become a paying client. But either way, once they leave, they're gone. There's no way for them to stay in your world and continue building a relationship with you. There's no building on your past work. You always have to start over from the top of the funnel. Two, it treats people as one-time transactions. In this funnel model, people are valuable to your business only if they move on to the next stage. If they don't, they're irrelevant. This encourages you to think of each person as just a number, not a human being. Three, it keeps you stuck in a state of urgency. The funnel makes you focus on constantly bringing in new leads and keeping them moving. And that keeps you in that hustle state of mind instead of building long-term stability. I found this way of working just so exhausting. The main reason I'd started my own business was so that I could just be myself as a whole multi-layered human being. Not only was I failing to do that, I now also felt the pressure to treat other people purely as opportunities to make money. And on top of all of that, I was still struggling to bring in a consistent income with my business. There were times I honestly wondered whether I'd be better off getting a corporate job. I would be just as unhappy, but at least I'd have a guaranteed income. But of course, that was just my survival mode brain talking, and thankfully, I didn't quit on my business. Instead, I took a hard look at what was working for me, what was helping me bring in clients that I loved working with. And that's when I realized that my sales and marketing didn't follow a funnel shape. My business had a much more organic shape, kind of like a tree. And this will come as no surprise to you. Most of my income was recurring revenue. And here I'm defining recurring revenue very broadly. It's not just retainers and ongoing services, although of course those are included. Recurring revenue is also any income from returning clients and referral clients. So I threw out the funnel and doubled down on what was working and created a system for getting more recurring revenue. And like I said, it ended up looking like a tree. And for me, this made total sense because it's a living, growing, connected system where every project that I completed led to new opportunities. And here's how it works. You start with project A. That client refers you to a colleague, and this leads to project B. In parallel, the case study that you created about project A attracts a great fit client, leading to project C. And then a business owner that you met online introduces you to your next client, and that becomes project D. And at this point, the client from project A comes back because their business is growing and they need more of your help on an ongoing basis. That is project E, which actually becomes a monthly retainer. Then the client from project B introduces you to another client and you book project F. And on it goes. This is a cycle that keeps repeating because every project you work on has the potential to bring in new projects without you having to start from scratch every month. Oh, and you might be thinking that a client that you attract with a case study isn't technically a returning client or a referring client, and I agree. But what's important here is how your past projects directly contribute to the growth of your new business through new projects. And that is what makes recurring revenue so special. And here's why this model, this recurring revenue model, is key to breaking out of survival mode. One, it creates stability. You're no longer starting each month wondering where your next project is coming from. Instead, your past work brings in a consistent flow of clients and new opportunities. Two, it gives you freedom. With recurring revenue, your business grows because of the relationships and trust that you have already built and the results that you've already delivered for your clients. This gives you the space to focus on work that most excites you, to design a schedule that works for the kind of life you want, and to take a break, like a real disconnected from the internet break without worrying about not working. And three, it creates a sense of belonging. To build recurring revenue, you need to invest in relationships. And when you prioritize genuine connections over transactions, you attract clients who value not just your work, but also who you are as a person, your perspective, your expertise, and your lived experience. Instead of constantly adapting to fit other people's expectations, you can build a business where you are your whole, authentic self. This is how we design a business that helps you thrive instead of one that keeps you stuck in survival mode. It is not sexy, I'll give you that. It's not the approach that goes viral on social media, but I can tell you this works. My life today looks very different from what I shared earlier. I live in beautiful Switzerland with a husband who fully supports everything I do. I start my morning slow, go on a hike with my dog every day, and set my own work hours. I have never been healthier. But more than that, I now have the space to explore work that truly excites me. I'm gonna be honest with you. I have always loved web design. It's been a hobby of mine since I got my first computer at age 9, but web design was not a calling for me. It's not something I want to do for the rest of my life. It was simply a great way to start my own business. Because I'm no longer in survival mode thanks to recurring revenue, I've been able to pivot my business from solely building websites for clients to helping other web designers build profitable and inclusive businesses. I've been able to do work that challenges systems of oppression in the online business industry and put my energy into making it a more inclusive place for all freelancers and business owners, including people with marginalized backgrounds and identities. I've even had the freedom to explore new ways to use my creativity and lifelong interest in tech to develop software products. I feel like there's so much more for me to explore, and honestly, I can't wait to figure out what I want to do next. None of this would have been possible if I hadn't built my web design business in a way that focused on creating recurring revenue. Let's talk next steps. Everything we've talked about today comes down to one key shift, making sure that every project you work on creates opportunities for future projects. This is how we get out of survival mode and create a business that supports your dream life. I'm going to jump in super quickly here to highlight just how important this is. What if every single client project that you worked on helped you get your next one? Getting out of survival mode and building a business that allows you to live your dream life, it's a big change, but it starts with small steps. It might be tempting to go out there immediately and do something visible, quote, productive right away, but instead, I would like to invite you to take some time to reflect on your past experiences. Here's some questions that might help. How have you had to fit into environments that weren't created for people like you? What kinds of comments or behaviors from other people have you had to let go without challenging? When have you adjusted your own boundaries for someone else's comfort? Where have your favorite clients come from? What can you do today for your current clients to deepen your relationship? The answers to these questions will help you figure out your next best step. So that was my presentation. My hope is that you walk away feeling a little more convinced, a little surer that Financial stability and a life of freedom are within reach. Your web design business isn't just a way to make some short term income, it really can be the way to build the life that you truly want, a life where you're thriving and not just surviving. And that's what makes your business an inclusive business, when it helps you be the fullest, the freest version of yourself. And if you want to dive deeper into creating an inclusive web design business, check out my next video. It's showing up on your screen right now, and I'll see you over there.